Talufalava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suiswiki. Coming up.
No, we are not under pressure from any external forces. It's a decision that we take based on the region's interest.
Samoa backs Solomon Islands' move to defer partner talks at PIF. Meanwhile, regional experts weigh in on the issue and...
If they can't satisfy it, they can't go ahead. They've got to come up and refine the technology.
The Cook Islands and the US agreed to work together. Samoa's caretaker Prime Minister Fiamea Naomi Mataafa is backing Solomon Islands Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele's plans to essentially block at least 20 countries from a key Pacific meeting. She's the latest leader to throw support behind the suggestion from Honiara. Lydia Lewis has the story.
The wheels have been set in motion for a Pacific Islands Forum Leaders Summit without the US, China and Taiwan.
No, we are not under pressure from any external forces. It's a decision that we take based on the region's interest.
The decision comes after weeks of media reports and speculation over whether or not a delegation from Taiwan would be allowed to enter Solomon Islands. Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele addressed the issue.
We acknowledge public concerns and media narratives regarding forum matters. But let me be very clear. Solomon Islands is a sovereign nation. Our government acts in the best interest of our people and the region. Decisions related to the Pacific Islands Forum are made collectively by forum members through established processes grounded in the Pacific way, emphasizing respect, dialogue and consensus.
His reasoning, not pressure from China, rather a long-awaited review of how more than 20 partner nations engage with Pacific leaders.
My June letter informed all leaders that Honiara will provisionally apply the reformed partnership mechanism. However, I've been told that the partnership engagement mechanism will not be ready for the Honiara Pacific Islands Forum Leaders meeting. Hence, the proposed deferment of the partners' dialogue to 2026.
Something Samoa supports. Caretaker Prime Minister Fiamea Naomi Mataafa says a deferral would allow forum leaders to focus on organisational issues, including the external partners review. In May, Fiamea opened up about the difficulty of managing external interests in the region.
Everyone's coming in. Every man and his dog coming into the Pacific. Pacific's becoming very contested. It's becoming very congested. But their basic question is, is Pacific unity still there? Do we still want it? If we do, what do we want it to look like?
And asked if Pacific unity was still there, she said,
We say it is, but in practice, I personally think that there is fragmentation. There's always that conflict between, the collective and the national interests and so forth. So we really do have to be thinking about what is it in regionalism that we want to make sure stays.
Palau's President Sorangil Whips Jr. also backs Manele's decision, having earlier doubled down on the need for Taiwan's participation.
This is not about Palau's relationship with China or Solomon Islands' relationship with Taiwan. It's about the PIF. And the PIF recognizes both. And within the PIF, we, of course, have our differences, but we come together as one Pacific.
It all comes to a head on Thursday as Pacific foreign ministers gather in Suva, the final ministerial meeting before the Leaders' Summit in Honiara.
That was Lydia Lewis with that story. Here to discuss the matter further is AUT's Senior Law Lecturer, Sione Tekiteki, and Massey University Associate Professor, Dr. Anna Poles. Kia ora and talofalava, Anna and Sione. Thank you so much for coming on Pacific Waves to discuss what's happening at PIF. So the major focus of our talanoa is Solomon Islands Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele is proposing to defer partner talks to next year. Now, this is not new because we've seen it happen before 3 years ago in Fiji on the basis that it was healing a rift. But there's a lot of talk with Manele's proposal. Is there actually something wrong with it? I'll start with you first, Sione.
Probably a couple of things. I think one is that it's probably unfortunate that this has played out in the media and there's a lot of media reporting around it. which has sort of heightened and elevated this issue. This issue around Taiwan and China is not a new issue. It's something that is always in the background of any forum leaders meeting. And you're right in pointing out that in Fiji, leaders at the time wanted to meet just amongst themselves to discuss issues to do with their own solidarity. So personally, I think just from as an official working within the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, from an operational level, it's, you're doing away with a lot of stress and a lot of other things that happen in the margins of the leaders meeting. And just from the leaders themselves, it does provide them with a space to discuss issues that are important without all of the partners' meetings, bilateral or otherwise. So there's advantages in that respects. But obviously the problem now is that, as I mentioned before, a lot of it has transpired out publicly.
Thank you for that, Sione. Now, Anna, you've said that restricting the meeting to PIF members would help reduce distractions from the forum's heavy agenda, but is there anything else that you'd like to add on to what Sione's just said?
Thank you, and thank you for having me on the show today. I absolutely agree with Siona's comments. I think that there are some obvious advantages of deferring the dialogue partners meeting to next year, although noting that that does effectively kind of kick the geopolitical can down the road to be dealt with over the next 12 months or so. But it is also, I think it's also important to note that whilst Prime Minister Manella's decision, yes, it's really the best sort of compromise, and there is a precedent, although I think we need to be careful about drawing too many links between what happened in 2022, which is very much, as Siona said about regional matters, compared to what we're seeing now, which suggests that there is a degree of external interests at play, and the fact that we are seeing the level of disruption in terms of the regional architecture itself, and specifically the status quo agreement, the 1992 Honiara Communique, where Taiwan was first recognized as a development partner to those foreign countries. So, and I think also it's worth noting too that in 2022, although dialogue partners, and by that stage I think there was probably around 21 dialogue partners that the forum forum secretariat was having to manage. Then US Vice President Kamala Harris did join virtually, and that caused some frustration amongst other partners who were not invited to join. And so I think it's going to be very important that dialogue partners respect this decision as well, in order to ensure that the meeting in Honiara in less than a month does not become increasingly contested on the ground, as well as noted, as well as in the media over the last month.
In terms of respecting that decision, doesn't China and the US already have a presence in the Solomons? I mean, they've got an embassy in Honiara and have ambassadors there. What's going to stop them from going to the meeting and representing their nations?
Well, I mean, nothing stops them. I mean, I think the decision here is about deferring the actual dialogue. And there will be no formal invitation extended to partners to engage with leaders at a formal level. Obviously, that does not stop partners at the bilateral level from reaching out through their respective embassies to have meetings with respective leaders. I mean, that's something that you can't stop and will happen. But I think the point is that from a formal point of view, in the context of the Pacific Islands Forum, they've made the decision that this year's meeting will be focused on Pacific Island leaders meeting, particularly the retreat, without the dialogues that normally accompany the Pacific Islands Forum meeting. So I think that is the main issue here. But obviously, like any engagement or any meeting, partners will still be there within their own capacities as individual countries.
Anna, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think it's obviously, absolutely agree. It does move those bilateral meetings to the margins effectively. That doesn't mean that won't necessarily preoccupy delegations, and so that will need to be very carefully managed by those respective countries. But worth noting too that even if we do see a number of external partners seeking to have meetings with those Pacific countries who are in Honiara for the meeting, there will be one obvious absence, and that is Taiwan, because it is very unlikely after the changes made in June that Taiwan would be able to get visas. The Taiwanese delegation will be able to get visas to also hold bilateral meetings along the side of the forum meeting. And so that absence will obviously be noted, particularly by those Pacific Island Forum member countries who recognize Taiwan. But hopefully this does mean that those distractions are at least dampened somewhat, and that many of the serious issues that the forum leaders need to be focused on, the review of the regional architecture, the Ocean of Peace Declaration, and other issues, they'll be able to focus on that rather than being distracted by the geopolitical circus happening around the meeting.
By not inviting these dialogue partners, what's the likelihood of that causing a rift in PIF? We've had Samoa's caretaker Prime Minister Fiamea Naomi Mataafa backing Manile's plan, which I guess is a different tune to what ABC had reported earlier, saying that she was threatening to boycott the meeting. What's your thoughts on that? Sione?
I mean, I think in the short term there will be, there will be some partners that may voice some concerns, but I think medium to long term, I don't think it will have any effect. I mean, the region is still a region that is of strategic interest, and they will continue to engage with countries. I think probably an issue to bear in mind is that, and this is probably a challenge that the Pacific Islands Forum will need to look at, is the fact that it's been said for a long time that partners need to engage the collective. And the more you put in place restrictions for partners to meet the collective, I guess that opens up the door for partners to be more encouraged to work the bilateral channels. And obviously that is something that needs to be considered, particularly in the context of what Anna just mentioned, the review of the regional architecture. And part and parcel of that review is looking at, for example, a tiered approach to the partnerships. And obviously that carries a lot of sensitivities as well. So there's all of these things that play out in the background, but I think it's something for the Pacific Islands Forum just to bear in mind that the more that they sort of close the door on partners, the more partners will find other pathways to engage with the region.
And is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
Oh, look, I absolutely agree. And I think that's potentially, whilst in the short term it diffuses the situation, as Sione has said, it potentially creates more issues. And of course, partners are jockeying at the moment for influence and for favor, and to determine where they fit within that tiered structure that Sione mentioned. So on the one hand, we have tier 1, the strategic partners, and then tier 2, the sector development partners. And though that's obviously who belongs where, which country fits into tier 1 and tier 2 is being determined and by by the Pacific Islands Forum itself, but certainly there is some discussion and discussions that I've had with a number of the partner countries. They're certainly wondering where they fit into that. So that focus on both bilateral and multilateral engagement has really intensified as a consequence.
The Cook Islands and the United States have agreed to work together to advance research and the responsible development of seabed minerals. It follows the Cook Islands signing a similar agreement with China earlier in the year. Caleb Fotheringham reports.
On the sidelines of the Cook Islands celebrating 60 years of self-governance, US and Cook Islands officials agreed to work together in the deep-sea mining space. The Cook Islands is 3.5 years into its 5-year exploration phase. Edward Herman says as a small island nation, it's useful to collaborate with other jurisdictions.
We're always available to collaborate and partner with any jurisdictions, any institutions, and we have quite a few of these arrangements anyway. This is just more of a formal arrangement, which the US felt this was appropriate to do a joint statement.
In February, the Cook Islands and China made a 5-year agreement to cooperate in exploring and researching the Pacific nation's seabed minerals. Mr. Herman says it's a similar high-level agreement.
We want technology resourcing ships if we can. We'd be open to anything that's available in terms of collaboration.
Mr. Herman told ABC Pacific the US is sending its research vessel, Nautilus, to the Cook Islands. June Hosking, president of environmental NGO Te Epukurea Society, thinks having several eyes on research is good, but hopes countries are not using the Cook Islands as a testing ground.
Would they think that they could come to our waters and try that out for real, rather than in their own waters? That's what would worry me. Anyone coming and do they actually care about our place?
Mr. Herman says seabed mineral research is very expensive and it's good to have collaboration. On help from China, he says a lot of it has to do with building on people capacity.
It's building on our research capacity, but more about our people capacity and capabilities. And building on that, we're very limited in our resourcing and capabilities. We do well as a small island developing state, but we're always looking for opportunities.
Former Cook Islands Prime Minister Henry Puna says deep-sea mining is being approached with caution.
If they can't satisfy it, they can't go ahead. They've got to come up, refine the technology. So, we are approaching that in a very, very calculated, but also, careful manner.
In April, the US opened a pathway to deep-sea mining in the high seas through its own regulations, outside of the International Seabed Authority. It's created a stir, with accusations that the move is breaching international law. Mr. Puna says issues at the International Seabed Authority does not affect the Cook Islands' domestic operations.
Our EEZ is exclusively our jurisdiction. And while there are issues at the ISA, with the Clarion-Clipperton Zone area, we don't have such, issues in our EEZ.
A joint statement from the United States and the Cook Islands says the two nations affirm their commitment to mutual prosperity, economic self-reliance, and environmental stewardship.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā sui fua.